The Houston Texans want the playoffs. I don't know if either are going to get what they want. It's Crossover Thursday.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into another Crossover Thursday. It's the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Titans, Locked On Texans your first listen each and every day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports network. It's Crossover Thursday, and Crossover Thursday is always presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I'm Tyler Rowland, host of Locked On Titans, here with my guy John Hickman, host of Locked On Texans. We're going to be talking about the big storylines in this one. Talk about some recent injuries for both teams. We're going to talk about the matchups that will determine this game, and we'll talk about what will sway things one way or another before we get into all of it. Again, thank you for making Locked On Titans and Locked On Texans your first listen. But, John, last time these two teams played, it was a beatdown. It was 26-0. Now, at halftime, it was 6-0. At the end of the third quarter, it was 6-0. And by the end of the fourth quarter, the Texans went on a barrage and took it away. Now the Texans were 1-3 at the time. That was their first win since they've kind of got right now at 4-5. Mm-hmm. What's the big storyline for the Texans? Do you think that, they can win this game and get to the playoffs still?
It's a fight. They still have their sights set on the playoffs. I think the biggest storyline right now for Houston is whether or not C.J. Stroud, Jalen Petrie will be available for that game, both in concussion protocol. Titus Howard returned back to practice. I believe Ed Ingram, starting right guard for Houston, who has played some good football this year for the franchise. He's returned back to practice. But whether or not C.J. Stroud, franchise quarterback, will be out there, and if Jalen Petrie will be out there as well, because Houston will need some help at their safety position. MJ Stewart is out for the season now. So no C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We know that the Houston Texans moved on from him early in the year. We haven't seen a lot of Jalen Reed, the rookie out of Penn State, since the first couple of weeks of training camp. So they're going to need a familiar face and body back there in Jalen Petrie. Although Miles Bryant has played some good football. But I think that's the biggest storyline for Houston, on top of can Davis Mills, and it looks like he will be the starting quarterback for Sunday, can he build off of his performance in the fourth quarter to the comeback victory from Sunday's matchup versus the Jacksonville Jaguars to be an impactful player? On the flip side, my question to you, storyline for the Tennessee Titans, just the offense and the dysfunction and how everything has been operating around rookie quarterback Cam Ward, not all based on the things around him, but he has looked like one of the more underwhelming number one picks, especially a quarterback in recent memory.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a struggle. It's certainly been a struggle. And that is, I would say, John, that is kind of what the hardest part of the season has been, is where's the line of, hey, Cam Ward could have done this better. He's a rookie quarterback. He needs to improve here. This play could have got the ball out of his hands, could have hit this receiver, could have been more careful with the ball in this situation. Where do we draw the line between his mistakes and looking at the rest of the team and being like, this is all-time bad coaching? I mean, there was an anonymous coach on the Raiders who said that was the worst team that he's played in 25 years. And the Texans were having their struggles. You remember how it was when it was 1-3 for the Texans and everybody was down on them and this team and that and everything. And they got right against the Titans and have turned things around ever since. You know what I mean? So it's like, this team isn't just bad. This is an all-time bad football team from a coaching perspective. The offensive line hasn't gelled like we hoped they might. Well, everything stems from ownership at the end of the day when you're a perennial bad franchise. That's just the way that it is. But I'm not quite as down on ownership as maybe some Titans fans would be. Like, I remember when Amy Adams Strunk takes over in the middle of the 2010s, 2013, 2015 time period. And she's the one who hired John Robinson and Mike Vrabel and Mike Mularkey and turned the team around. Like, everybody wants to crush her because the team has fallen apart, and it has, but the team fell apart from a place where she built it up to, too. We can't not give her any credit for the Titans run with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown and that, 4 or 5 year run, even with Marcus Mariota, who won a playoff game against Kansas City in 2017. If you want to start from like 2016 when they got DeMarco Murray to the end of it all, really 2021, 2022, I mean, Amy Adams Strunk deserves credit for the second best run in franchise history for that, right? So I guess I'm up and down with ownership, but you're right that back to the point, it's just hard to know how much to blame Cam Ward for his mistakes because it's clear he's getting terrible coaching. And we know that is such a benefit to a young quarterback and a young offense, and something that has made C.J. Stroud struggle at times. Is he
absolutely.
really you look around the NFL and you wonder, is this guy getting high-level offensive coaching? Like, would he not be better if he had better coaching? And for the Titans, they don't have a Nico Collins. They don't have, and Calvin Ridley is set to come back this week. He's back at practice. That'll help the Titans, especially if there's injuries in the secondary for the Texans. But at the end of the day, you've been throwing to 2 fourth-round wide receivers in Van Jefferson. And you've had an offensive line that has had struggles. You have all-time bad coaching. All-time bad coaching. It's like...
That's the trifecta right there.
How much can I blame Cam Ward? Like, even though he's made rookie mistakes, and I've pointed them out, how much can I blame Cam Ward? So it's fair to say he's been underwhelming, but it's also fair to say what I'm saying, and it's like, how much can you blame him, really? And whether the offense can literally score any points against this dominant defense, that is the big storyline. That is the big question, because that's where the expectations are. That's what we need to see. John, you're either winning or you're selling hope. That's all it is. It's hope or wins in the NFL. And the Titans need to play better on offense if they want their fans to have hope going into next year.
I think for the Houston Texans right now, they are in the midst of both. Realistically, They got a shot. And I think the way to the playoffs is absolutely that 7th seed. Don't see Houston catching Indy, although anything is possible. They could very well beat Indy twice. And then now we're looking at Houston having the division advantage. But it's also hope there that even if they don't make the playoffs, I think for myself included, the hope is the outcome of the season, is it any way possible that can lead into a better year in 2026 and moving forward?
The offenses look better, right? Like, I'm not crazy to think that. So. Like, the offense has gotten better. They're scoring more points and having some success.
Check this out. Now, granted, C.J. Stroud missed a game and a half, so the numbers are skewed a little bit.
Hey, Davis Mills has played well.
Davis Mills has played well, but this is what I want to point out. How much better the offensive line has played the last 4 to 5 weeks compared to the first 3 weeks of the season. That has allowed for Houston to kind of find some rhythm and groove. And a lot of people want Nick Caley gone, first-year offensive play caller here in Houston, extremely inexperienced. But I made a case on my Wednesday show that if Nick Caley can continue to stack good moments, I know a lot of y'all wanted him fired, but he's done some good things that can translate over to better quarterback play from a mental perspective and also just a better foundation for an offense. Granted, I think Nick Caserio, regardless of how the season ends, needs to be out the door. When you replace a bad left guard with another even worse left guard in the right guard, like, that's just bad business. But Nick Caley, I think, has done some things that, considering what he's had to work with, he's made improvements. The offense has played a lot better, and I'm looking at a Cam Ward who's been sacked 38 times on a season. He just had his bye week, and I'm looking at a C.J. Stroud, a much improved offensive line, only sacked 17 times this year. That's with a game and a half missed, so the numbers are skewed, like I mentioned. But the line has been better. The offensive output and production, in my opinion, has been a lot better as well.
And now that there's a little bit more health in the wide receiver group, that allows the Texans to be a little bit more multiple. And we'll talk about that because one of the areas where it's really concerning for the Titans is at cornerback in the secondary. So matchups in this game to watch right now. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving with Supply House. Order today and you'll see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on the job where every detail matters. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free. Use the promo code SHNFL5. That's SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both, like me and my guy John are. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot feature saves your lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, John, let's continue. Crossover Thursday, Locked on Titans, Locked on Texans. The rematch. Again, last time these teams played, it was 26-0. I know Texans fans won't agree with this, but certainly hoping for a more competitive showing from the Titans in this one. And a lot of that will start with how the Titans defend the Houston Texans on offense, because the Titans offense has had struggles, and we'll talk about what could lead to more struggles for the Titans offense here in just a second, I'm sure. But looking at the Titans defense against the Texans offense, the Titans secondary, especially at cornerback, has been dismantled. I mean, you could probably say that for the most part in general. L'Jarius Sneed out. He's probably never going to play another game for the Titans. That was an all-time bad acquisition for the Titans. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Roger McCreary have both been traded for draft capital. So the Titans are looking at 3 backup cornerbacks on their 6th cornerback of the year. If you think about it, your top 3 are out. You're using 4, 5, and 6. So you'll have rookie Marcus Harris, who was a 6th-round pick, in the slot. You're going to have Darrell Baker Jr. You're going to have Jalen Armour Davis, who's struggled this year. I worry about the Texans.
It's a bunch of guys.
Right, man. Like, these aren't guys that are part of the long-term
solution. Just a bunch of NPCs.
Literally NPCs out there. They're creative players on Madden at the end of the day. Like, these guys have played hard and they're trying hard, but they're just not talented enough to deal with Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Xavier Hutchinson, the 2 rookies, and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, and they're all rocking right now, right? Like the wide receiver group is healthy for the Texans. What does that look like recent weeks?
Yeah, man, it's just CJ Stroud described the offense as death by 1,000 cuts, and this offense does look well when everybody's included. So we go back to Sunday's matchup. Nico Collins, I think, had 15 targets, but a name that you did not mention. Now, he's not a wide receiver, but Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, man, and Texan fans hated the way he played last year, hated the way the season ended, and for a lot of people, Dalton Schultz and his blocking effort, they put a lot of blame on him for how Houston lost the game against Kansas City in the AFC semi-conference game. So I am on a mission to make sure that people know Dalton Schultz is playing some good football for Houston. He's been extremely reliable, and one of the things that Dalton Schultz does well, I don't know how much zone Tennessee runs, and I looked that up.
A lot.
But Dalton Schultz is perfect at sitting in that zone, finding the zone and sitting right in it to be a best friend to a quarterback. So he's been great. And I'm going to tell you this, with you guys having your defensive problems, don't know if Jeffery Simmons is going to play or not.
It's up in
Should
the
he
air.
should he play at this point of the season? I feel like you don't want to risk it. Um, this is an offense that can absolutely, because any given Sunday, just blast a Titans defense that, from a leadership perspective, interim head coach, a lot of chaos going on behind the scenes from the things that I've read. The season is where it is. Houston's riding hot. Tennessee's cold. They could very well just come in Tennessee and just punch them in the mouth.
No, you're 100% right. They could. And I mean, the Texans have had their ups and downs with running the football, but the Titans' run defense has been absolutely terrible pretty much all year. So Woody Marks, who's been more explosive as of late, covering covering the entire NFL for Locked On NFL. I'm using clips from you guys all the time, and I still remember, you're talking about Woody Marks out of the backfield, and that is something where the Titans' defense, in my opinion, has played better than I think maybe the talent available would lead them to play. I think Denard Wilson is a good defensive coordinator. I don't think he's great or anything like that. My dog seems to disagree. He's a big, fan of the defense, likes the talent there.
Shout out to the dog.
Yep. Shout out to Kobe. But either way, I guess I worry about the Titans backing up too far on defense. They consistently do that. It's 3rd and 4, it's 3rd and 5, it's 3rd and 3, and they're backed up 8-9 yards. They're second-level defenders. They're hook curl defenders. Cody Barton is backed up 9-10 yards, and it's just easy pickings for quarterbacks.
And that will be bad against Houston.
Exactly. What you're saying with Dalton Schultz and with Woody Marks and his explosiveness out of the backfield as a running back catching the ball, and some of the weapons that can catch the ball short, break a tackle, and go. Denard Wilson, Titans defensive coordinator, was just saying this week how most of the explosive plays the Titans have allowed on defense are broken tackles. And then they go. And the Texans have a lot of guys that can do that right now, and that suits Davis Mills if he plays, because like you were talking about on your show earlier this week, the Texans didn't take so many shots downfield, and they were lining up in some heavy formations, just letting Davis Mills dump it all short, and the Titans will give you that, and that helps the Texans in a number of ways. So I'm very worried about the secondary of the Titans and the second-level defenders against the skill position players of the Texans.
And another thing for Houston, I know we have to flip sides. We want to go ahead and flip sides, get to the Texans defense.
Hey, I'm going wherever you want to go. If you got a great point, give it to the people.
When I look at the advantages for Houston right now, it's 100% the defense. You got Danielle Hunter, 3.5 sacks. He just wins AFC Player of the Week. But a player that, and this is a moment that I think many Tennessee Titans fans feel, a player in Calvin Ridley, who for most of his tenure in Tennessee has looked like a wide receiver 2 at best, but a lot of times looks like a wide receiver 3 or 4 sometimes.
Lately.
If that's who the Tennessee Titans offense is banking on to be somewhat of a leader and playmaker on the outside, that's a problem for that rookie quarterback. He already has to deal with a up and down bad offensive line, sacked 38 times. But if your number one playmaker ain't out there being able to create separation, has a lot of these lackluster performances, and coming into the game against Houston, where it feels like the advantage could be either Kamari lined up on him or Derek Stingley lined up on him, it don't matter. You're giving that defense the opportunity to give that front four sacks because of the coverage on the back end is just going to be so damn good. So when I look at advantages, offensive right now, I think because they're going up against a banged up and down Titans defense, it plays into the Texans' favor. But Houston's defense could very well have one of those games where we're looking up and they got a touchdown on the board, multiple sacks once again. Maybe the coaching staff is debating with themselves, do we pull our rookie quarterback to look out for his future needs because guys ain't getting open. And guys are not being explosive downfield, and they're not getting much from their offensive line up front. I think this is a game where Texan defense built off of last week's performance and just completely kicks down a door.
I don't think you're wrong about that. And listen, the Titans' offensive line, I don't think it's as bad as it's been in recent years. I think a lot of those sacks are, quite frankly, part of having a rookie quarterback. Cam Ward needs to get the ball out of his hands, needs to take
Agreed.
advantage of opportunities. Like, that's some of it, but not saying that the offensive line has played well. And at the end of the day, even a good offensive line could struggle mightily with this Texans defensive line, with the pass rush that the Texans bring to the table. Jalen Petrie will be a name to watch because he really helps in the secondary, and he has the ability to play that nickel position, and he kind of tilts the field and tilts the math a little bit. But even if he doesn't play, having those defensive ends and Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, it's going to make it very difficult for the Titans because they're going to have to help both. And when you help both tackles, that means that there are only 3 guys out in pass routes. And then you have 7 guys in blocking and 2 guys chipping that need to barely get out into the flats afterward. It just limits the offense so much. It's going to make it very, very difficult. And I mean, while the offense has had its struggles for the Texans, the defense has been rocking basically all year.
Yeah. Number 1 scoring points per game at 16 now. At one point, it was sitting at 12 or 13 or something like that. Crazy. So a 3-point bump. They started to, as of late, create those turnovers, starting with the Seattle game, 4 turnovers, and they've been able to kind of do that a little bit more consistently. Derek Stingley with maybe the interception of the year, the one hand on a drag route to help Houston, get that good field position and score points. And so defensively, what we know about the Texan defense, and I'm going to say this because I know we got to move on. I had an opportunity to speak with Azeez Al-Shaair post-game on Sunday in the locker room, right? And he said the conversation from DeMeco Ryans, the message from DeMeco Ryans going into that game was, everybody calls y'all this number 1 defense in the NFL, but we've had 2 occasions this year where our offense scores points and you guys are out on the field to end the game and you were letting points get scored to lose us the game. So he said his challenge was go be the number 1 defense that we know you are. And I think right now, defensively for the Houston Texans, they are riding. If I had a spoon in a lighter, I light it on fire. They are riding a high from their head coach that, we are number 1. And no matter what our offense goes out there and do we need to score points? We can. Do we need to continue to create turnovers? We can. Do we need to make sure that the quarterback's life is living hell on the football field? We can. And that just bodes well for the Houston Texans all around.
Yeah, and especially in this matchup with the Titans, that's enough to win the game right there. But with that being said, speaking of winning the game, we'll talk about what we think sways this game one way or another to cap things off. It's Crossover Thursday. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work, family, everything else. This season, it's so important to reach out and check in with family, friends, and even yourself. Just like checking on a teammate or reconnecting with someone that you haven't seen in a while can lift your spirits, reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes that first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. I've noticed that simply talking things through, even for a few minutes, helps clear my head and get me back on track. And therapy isn't just for when things are falling apart. It's about staying balanced and growing through all of the tough seasons. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist who fits your needs so you can switch anytime, even if it's not the right match. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself. BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon, because taking that step towards support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? All right, John, let's cap off today's Crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Titans, Locked On Texans. Again, thank you for making us your first to listen each and every day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Talking about how we think this game will go, what might decide things. John, I'll tell you, I go back to the previous game. The Houston Texans had 38 minutes of ball control. 38 minutes of time of possession. The Titans had 21. That is simply not going to work. The Titans need to control the clock. They need to keep the ball away from Houston and sustain drives. And to do that, I've been saying it all year. I'm going to keep saying it. And the reality is, if they don't do it, they're just simply not going to win any more games. And the Titans have to run the football. They have to find a way to run the football to keep the pressure off of Cam Ward. If you have a bunch of third and longs, then the Texans' pass rush is going to be able to just pin their ears back and go to work. And look, the Texans have the second best run defense in the entire NFL right now. They're giving up 90 yards per game. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but if the Titans don't rush for 100 yards, it's going to ruin time of possession. It's going to set up long third down opportunities, just like it has all year long. That's been the problem all year long. So they have to find a way to run the football. And in that previous game, there were some moments before the game got out of hand where the Titans were able to have some success in the run game. There were a few Tony Pollard runs that actually did go for a little bit and actually gave you some hope that the Titans might be able to put some things together. But they just were never able to sustain it, and it fell off the tracks in the fourth quarter. So for me, it's all about getting the run game going for the Titans to protect Cam Ward.
I have never done a show with Tyler Rowland, and he's been this removed from a Titans season. It's normally a lot more guys, and I've been knowing Tyler for a little minute now.
It's a struggle.
Whatever's going on at Tennessee, not this season, but my God, please get it right, because I don't want to see this type of Tyler again next year. That said, man, I was just looking at some of the numbers. 32 or more passing attempts 6 times this year for Cam Ward.
Yep.
Looking at the dropbacks, a couple of dropbacks 40 or more times. And that just hadn't bode well for the quarterback, the offense. And to your point of running the ball, I'm not sure if Tennessee can run the ball effectively at all. But maybe just giving Cam Ward time to not have to be the end-all, be-all for that offense right now may work. But I will say this, guys. Things that teams and offenses traditionally do well this year, the Texans' defense have taken it away or limited very well. Going back to the game against Jacksonville last week, coming into that game, they're rushing for, 120, 125 on the year, under 100 yards. Their average was 4.5 yards per carry going into that game, 3.5 walking out of that game. Seattle on the year wasn't a team that traditionally threw the ball away. 4 turnovers in that game. So this Texas defense going up against an offense that is already having its own internal struggles, it may be worse. And I think this Texas defense right now is playing some of the best football that they can possibly string together. So do I want to put a point total on it in my prediction? No, not number-wise, but I will say I see this being a lot to a little Texans way.
Yeah, I think that the Texans will ultimately win the game. I got to tell you, though, the Titans are at home. They're coming out of the bye week. The Texans do have their backup quarterback in, and I know that Davis Mills has beaten the Titans before. It's not like Davis Mills can't beat the Titans or that he's bad. He's a good backup, but he's not as good as C.J. Stroud. I think that otherwise he would be playing over C.J. Stroud when both are healthy. But I think the Titans keep this one closer than the last time. I think they score points in this one. I think that this game is 23-20, maybe 27-20 or 20. I 20. I'm out here being crazy. 27-13, 23-13, right around there is where I think this one will be. But I think the Titans get 1 touchdown, and I think they get a couple of field goals. So I think they acquit themselves a little bit better than they have previously. But, yeah, I'm with you. I don't see the Titans winning this one. And at this point, I'm not certain that the Titans want to win. I think with the Jets winning last week,
that's right.
The Saints winning last week, the Titans are the only 1-win team, and that puts them in the driver's seat for the number 1 pick. And strength of schedule is the first tiebreaker. The Titans have the hardest strength of schedule of any team in the NFL right now. So they're not going to win any tiebreakers with anybody, so they might as well just stay where they're at.
I know we have to get out of here, but I want to ask you really quick. How would you fix this Titans team?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think you hope you get the number 1 overall pick. You trade down for an additional first. You get a trade package for somebody to move up for a quarterback. I think you take multiple defensive players and wide receivers. I think you add a free agent on the offensive line and 1 edge rusher. And then you try to be more competitive with a good head coach.
Any favorites?
I think Mike McCarthy makes a lot of sense because he's a leader. He's experienced. He's had a bunch of top 5 offenses, 12-win seasons, got a Super Bowl trophy, and he's just a professional coach. You know, the Titans have had bozos running the program for 2 years now, like that just don't know what they're doing at all. You know that Mike McCarthy isn't very exciting, but he knows what he's doing. He's a professional NFL head coach. I think Robert Saleh could be interesting because it basically would be like a D'Amico Ryans hire. He's a guy who really inspires people, has that energetic personality, defensive mastermind too, though. And let's say the Dolphins fire Mike McDaniel, who he knows from their time together in San Francisco. Let him come over and be the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
To me, I'm kind of looking at pairings that would make sense. Everybody's high on Clint Kubiak right now, obviously the offensive coordinator from the Seahawks. But I think the Titans really got to go for a guy who has some head coaching experience. So I think Robert Saleh and Mike McCarthy are kind of the 2 names that make the most sense to me right now.
I like that. Just whatever they do, man. I don't want another season of this version of Tyler. I don't like this.
They're killing us out here, John. It's been a rough season. Look, if you want to know how rough it is, go look at point differential in the NFL, and you'll see the Titans at a distant last. But with that being said, again, the Texans want to make the playoffs. The Titans want to get their revenge. We'll see if either team is able to do that on Sunday. But with that being said, that's going to do it for Crossover Thursday. I'm Tyler Rowland for my division mate, host of Locked On Texans, John Hickman. Thank you guys for tuning in to Crossover Thursday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Boom.